Nobody puts baby in a corner. 6 words, delivered with complete conviction by a man in a black t-shirt walking across a banquet hall. And with them, Dirty Dancing secured its place as one of the most beloved films of the 1980s. A film every studio thought would fail, budgeted like a throwaway, that became one of the most profitable movies ever made relative to its cost. Today, 15 facts about Dirty Dancing. From the real story behind the script, to the lift that nearly didn't happen, to the soundtrack that broke every record anyone expected it to break. Stick around for the bonus. It involves Patrick Swayze, a broken hand, and the reason the final dance looks like it's coming from somewhere real. Dirty Dancing opened in August 1987. Written by Eleanor Bergstein and directed by Emil Ardolino. Patrick Swayze as Johnny Castle. Jennifer Grey as Baby Hoberman. Budget, $6 million. Worldwide gross, over $218 million. The first film to sell 1 million copies on home video. The soundtrack spent 18 weeks at #1. Released by Vestron Pictures, a small home video company that had never made a theatrical film before. Here's how it happened. Fact 1. Every major studio passed on it. Bergstein spent years trying to get Dirty Dancing made. The script was rejected by every major Hollywood studio. The setting too dated, the premise too small, the story not obviously commercial. Vestron Pictures, whose primary business was distributing home video, agreed to finance their first theatrical feature for $6 million. The film that every major studio passed on earned $218 million worldwide. Vestron's minor gamble returned more than 36 times its investment. Fact 2. The script was autobiographical. Eleanor Bergstein didn't invent Baby Hoberman. She was Baby Hoberman. Bergstein grew up spending summers at Catskills resorts, learned to dance in exactly the environments she described, and drew the film's abortion subplot directly from her family history. Her father was a doctor who performed illegal procedures before Roe versus Wade. The name Baby was Bergstein's own childhood nickname. The dancing was drawn from her own experience. The film feels real because it is real. Bergstein wasn't writing a story. She was writing her life. Fact 3. Swayze was not the obvious choice Billy Zane auditioned. Val Kilmer was considered. Other names came and went for various reasons. Insufficient dance ability, wrong energy, wrong physical type. Swayze had trained seriously as a ballet dancer before transitioning to acting. He brought exactly the quality the filmmakers needed, the specific combination of danger and vulnerability the character demanded. He also trained through a genuine knee injury that caused him real pain throughout the entire production. Fact 4. Jennifer Grey almost didn't take the role. Grey was uncertain about the project. The budget was small, the distributor unknown. She also had reservations about the chemistry with Swayze, having appeared with him previously in Red Dawn where their dynamic had been anything but romantic. She took the role. The tension that had seemed uncertain in Red Dawn became the defining quality of Dirty Dancing. The hesitation she brought to Baby was genuine, borrowed from her own uncertainty about whether she was right for the film. Fact 5. The lift almost didn't work. The climactic lift, Baby running toward Johnny, raised above his head, was one of the most technically demanding sequences in the production. Grey was genuinely afraid of it throughout rehearsals. The lift requires the person being raised to commit completely. Any flinching destabilizes everything. Grey flinched repeatedly during practice. Swayze later said he was genuinely concerned at multiple points that the lift simply wouldn't happen before cameras rolled. The take used in the film was one of the first successful attempts after weeks of difficult rehearsal. The image that defined the film almost didn't exist. Fact 6. The soundtrack changed the music industry. The Dirty Dancing soundtrack was not expected to perform. A collection of early 1960s period songs alongside newly recorded material, the kind of eclectic mix that typically appealed to a narrow audience. It spent 18 consecutive weeks at #1. It became the first soundtrack album to sell more than 1 million copies in the United States. The song, I've Had the Time of My Life, won the Academy Award for Best Original Song and the Grammy for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group. The album was still selling at peak levels after the film had left theaters. Fact 7. The film was shot largely in sequence. Most films are shot out of sequence for logistical reasons. Dirty Dancing was filmed largely in order because Grey and Swayze needed to learn their dances progressively, building toward the more demanding choreography as production went on. Their real improvement in the dancing matched Baby's fictional improvement in the story. What looked like a narrative choice was actually a rehearsal schedule, and it gave the film an authenticity of progression that most romances have to fake. Fact 8. The abortion subplot was almost removed. Penny's illegal abortion, the element that drives the central conflict and forces Baby to confront the limits of her protected world, faced sustained pressure throughout development. Multiple people argued for its removal, suggesting the subject matter would alienate audiences. Bergstein refused. The subplot was drawn directly from her family history and from the political reality of the early 1960s. Without it, Baby is just a girl who learns to dance. With it, she's a girl who learns what her values actually cost. A script rejected by every major studio, a lift that almost never worked, and an abortion subplot the industry tried to cut and the writer refused to lose. We're not halfway through. Still coming. The line that wasn't in the script, the film that tested badly and became a phenomenon anyway, and the bonus, a broken hand, and the reason Swayze's final performance looks like it's coming from somewhere real. Fact 9. Nobody puts baby in a corner wasn't in the original script. The line was written during production, after the filmmakers felt the scene needed a single declarative statement that could carry the weight of everything Johnny had learned over the course of the summer. Swayze delivered it with complete conviction. No hesitation, no irony. His total commitment to the moment is precisely what made it work. The line has been voted one of the most memorable in American cinema history. It was added late, almost as an afterthought, and it outlasted everything else in the film except the lift. Fact 10. Swayze choreographed significant portions of the dancing himself. The film's choreographer was Kenny Ortega, who would later direct the High School Musical franchise, but Swayze contributed substantially to designing his own movement. His ballet background gave him the technical vocabulary to work as a genuine creative collaborator rather than simply executing someone else's vision. The physicality that makes Johnny Castle feel real, the quality of someone for whom movement is a natural language rather than a learned skill, came directly from Swayze's own history with dance. He wasn't playing a dancer, he was one. Fact 11. The film tested badly and became a phenomenon anyway. When Vestron screened Dirty Dancing for a test audience before its theatrical release, the response was poor. Scores were low. Several people walked out. The filmmakers resisted significant re-edits. The film opened to modest first weekend numbers and built entirely through word of mouth, particularly among women who felt the film had spoken to something real about their own experiences of class, desire, and becoming. The test screening process had simply measured the wrong people. Fact 12. The Catskills scenes were filmed in Virginia and North Carolina. Despite being set in the Catskills, a specific world of Jewish summer resort culture, Dirty Dancing was filmed primarily at Mountain Lake Lodge in Virginia and Lake Lure in North Carolina. The actual Catskills resorts of the early 1960s had largely declined or closed by the mid-1980s. The setting that defined the film's atmosphere existed only as a memory of somewhere that no longer looked the way it did in 1963. Fact 13. Jennifer Grey's career was changed permanently by a nose job. After the success of Dirty Dancing, Grey underwent rhinoplasty. The surgery changed her appearance in ways that made her less immediately recognizable, and the career momentum she had built did not continue at the same level afterward. She later said she had gone into the surgery hoping to look less distinctive, wanting to fit conventional Hollywood standards, and had emerged looking like someone else entirely. The specific quality that made her face memorable and her performances emotionally immediate was connected to exactly the features she had changed. She described the experience as cautionary. She had fixed something that wasn't broken and lost something that couldn't be replaced. Fact 14. The setting was chosen for its political resonance. Bergstein set the film in the summer of 1963 specifically, the last moment before the Kennedy assassination, before the decade's upheavals arrived in full. In her conception, it was the last summer of a certain American innocence. Baby is learning that the world she grew up believing in is more complicated and more compromised than she understood. The summer she spends at Kellerman's is the summer she finds out. The film isn't nostalgic for 1963, it's elegiac about it. Fact 15. The film became a cultural institution nobody expected to last, released in August, traditionally a dumping ground for film studios considered minor, by a distributor that had never made a theatrical film before, on a budget smaller than most productions spent on catering. Every indicator suggested it would open quietly and disappear. Instead, it built. Word of mouth drove attendance in ways no marketing campaign had anticipated. It ran in theaters for months. The home video release became a phenomenon of its own, the first film ever to sell 1 million VHS copies. Generations discovered it not in theaters but at home, on worn tapes passed between friends, watched and rewound and watched again. The film nobody expected to last is still here, still being discovered, still making people want to learn how to do the lift. And now the bonus I've been saving for last. Swayze injured his hand during production, a genuine injury sustained during the physical demands of the shoot. He filmed significant portions in real pain, managing the injury without shutting down the schedule. But here's what matters about that detail. Swayze's performance throughout Dirty Dancing has a quality that goes beyond physical ability. Johnny Castle carries genuine emotional weight, the frustration of someone told his whole life that what he does doesn't matter, the pride of someone who knows it does, the vulnerability of someone allowing himself to care about a person from a world that has always looked down on his. Swayze brought that from his own life. He had spent years as a serious ballet student before the physical demands made that career unsustainable. He had experienced exactly the class dynamics the film described, the trained dancer who never quite fit where he came from and never quite belonged where the art form wanted to take him. When Johnny Castle walks across that ballroom floor, Patrick Swayze isn't performing a line. He's settling an argument that started long before the cameras rolled. The broken hand was just the visible part of what he brought to the film. The rest of it was years of knowing exactly who Johnny Castle was, because he had been him.